All right. So you can hear me, you can see me. Wonderful. I would love to see you as well. It's always nice to see people's faces. And we have the chat. So let's use the chat. There we go. I'm going to put this up here. So welcome. Welcome to this prenatal yoga upgrade. Today we're going to talk about 5 shifts for a strong and confident prenatal yoga practice. Not necessarily yoga practice, but in general, you can apply this to any type of practices. So before we get started, I would love if we could all take a moment to get to know each other. Use the chat, write in the chat what part of the world you're in, how many weeks pregnant you are, and maybe how you're feeling in terms of the pregnancy. So drop a line in the chat. How many weeks pregnant you are, which part of the world you're in, and how you are feeling in terms of this pregnancy. And in the meantime, I would like to congratulate you. Oh, I'm so sorry. For showing up. So anyway, you're in the UK, near London, 20 weeks, feeling good. Nice. It's a few other people. Aishan, living in the Netherlands. I'm in the Netherlands too. Aisha and I live in Amsterdam. Nice to meet you. 21 weeks pregnant. Not perfect. Yeah. I know. Still have nausea. And I think, I'm not sure if this is you, but I have a lot of students who get past that first trimester of nausea and then get to the second trimester and they're like, yeah, this is where it's all gonna, get going and I'm gonna feel great. And then you're in the second trimester and you're still feeling pretty nauseous. And you're like, wasn't this supposed to be like my peak? What's it gonna be like in the third? So if that's you, I want you to know that 1, you're not alone, and 2, that it's perfectly normal not to have a wonderful, yeah, you felt worse at 12 weeks. It's perfectly normal not to have a wonderful second trimester. Okay, that's completely fine. Gefra, I'm not sure if I'm saying it. No, yeah, you're welcome. Welcome for being here. Geneva, 22 weeks, loading, feeling good. So everyone's here around 12 weeks. Someone's messaged me privately. In the Netherlands, welcome. I'm also in Amsterdam, 15 weeks pregnant, feeling good. Great. I'm shocked because you're waiting to be better week by week. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then, but this again doesn't necessarily mean that because your second trimester is worse, I'm saying in speech marks worse than your first ones, that your third is going to be worse. Okay? It just means that every pregnancy has its own path. And we're all in this kind of on the same journey, but living a different experience. So some people might have that beautiful hair and glowing skin, and some people just don't, or you do have it, but you don't feel it. So that's to say that you're not alone. And I just want to reiterate that just because you're supposed to be feeling wonderful and good doesn't mean you have to. Okay. But that's not the topic of today. Today, you're here because I'm assuming that you love to move, right? You're welcome. I'm assuming that you love to move, but right now you're like, how am I actually supposed to move? What is that supposed to look like? So you want to, I'm assuming, and please write in the chat if I'm right, I'm wrong. Sorry, my babysitter is messaging. Everything is fine. You are here because you're either constantly second guessing yourself. Yeah. You're maybe working full time, maybe you're not. You're interested in having lessons. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about that later. But for now, we're going to talk about the workshop. And I'm assuming, right? So please keep writing in the chat and I'll do my best to switch between both of them. But you're here because you want to know exactly what you have to change in your practice. Yeah? You want to know what you have to get rid of, what you have to change, and what you can keep. You're here because you want to feel strong and capable, yeah, and not kind of limited and restricted all the time. And this kind of this feeling of being fragile. And there's one thing when we have a condition or situation where we're bedridden and we have to rest on doctor's orders. And the other thing is being pregnant. Pregnancy is not an illness, it's not a sickness. It doesn't mean that we're a patient. Yeah, we're not ill, we're not sick. If we're fine and healthy and baby is fine and healthy, there's absolutely no reason why we need to be this fragile being just because we're pregnant. And you want to feel confident in what you're doing. I know some people message me saying that they're doing regular yoga classes. They're going to regular yoga classes. And I don't know if your yoga teacher knows how to adapt to pregnancy or not. But it's your responsibility then to feel confident with what you're doing if you're not in a prenatal yoga class and you want to know that what you're doing is right. If you're in a general exercise class or a workout class. And you want to be able to move with confidence for the rest of the pregnancy. And for the rest of the pregnancy, I also include the birth. Okay, you want to be able to take this confidence and safety, this feeling of safety with you into the birth, because there's one thing of being, okay, I'm in this pose, whatever it is, a triangle pose or a warrior pose or a squat, and I feel safe doing that pose. That feeling, you want to take it into birth, because we give, labor happens naturally when we feel safe. So that feeling of safety is what gives us confidence, what makes us feel in control, and that we want to take it to birth. And maybe you're here because you were doing that regular exercise, whether it was yoga or CrossFit or running or whatever it was, a couple of times a week. And it wasn't just exercise for you, it was actual, like that reset button. It's part of your life, it's part of your schedule, it's part of your routine, right? It's that whatever activity that gives you energy after a long day of doing whatever it is that you're doing, and that makes you feel like you. And now suddenly you're pregnant, and either it's the bump in the middle that's stopping you from doing that lunge, or it's the nausea that's stopping you from moving, or whatever it is, that you want to keep doing it and not just like a watered down version. You just want to adapt it to where you are now. So write in the chat if there's something I've missed or if there's something different, right? And then you're probably feeling like you're so tired in a way that you probably didn't expect. Maybe even in your second trimester when you're supposed to have these energy peaks. Maybe you're doing less things because it feels safer than doing the wrong thing. Maybe you're going online to look for answers and you're getting different answers every time for the same question. And maybe you are following prenatal yoga videos, right? Online or wherever, but maybe they feel like they're made for someone else with a different body on a different day, because they're either for someone who is a complete beginner, or they expect you to be doing, headstands and all these extreme other poses. Maybe you had a regular group of people that you would do yoga with or exercise with, and you're the only one who's pregnant, and you're still meeting up with those people to do that same activity, but everything's feel different now. And they don't understand. And maybe this is a big one because I get this from so many students. You're just frustrated because you want to do that same movement that you've been doing for all these years, and suddenly you can't. Like a lunge. Like suddenly you're trying to do a lunge and you're like, what is this in the way stopping me from doing a lunge? Oh, wait, it's my belly. When did this show up, right? And it's just really frustrating that you aren't able to do the things that you used to be able to do. So that makes us want to feel like we're just missing the movement. I don't know if on top of that, everything's changing in a way that you weren't ready for. And, maybe you're doing something and suddenly baby starts kicking and you don't know if that means that's good or that's bad. Or one day you go for a walk, a long walk that is not extra long, but long by your standards. And then the next day you're feeling in your pelvis. right? And then again, you're like, does that mean I shouldn't do such long walks, or does that mean something else? And you start going into this spiral. So if that's how you're feeling, then this is a place for you. Yeah, this is for you if you want to keep if you want to keep moving. If you want to keep moving and you don't know what to change, we're going to talk about that here. If you want to feel strong, yeah, and I'm feeling strong doesn't mean having to do everything strong. It's a feeling. We want to do it in a way that we feel strong, and we want to keep moving with clarity and confidence. Okay, and we want to do it in a smart way, in a way that we know how to adjust, because we hear a lot about listen to your body. Listen to your body, right? I'm sure you've heard this from people. What does that actually mean? Listen to my body. Does that mean I have to go deeper? Does that mean I need to move my legs wider? Does that mean I need to change positions? What does it mean to listen to my body? So if that's who you are, who you've been told, this is for you. I am going to include who this is not for, because I had 100 and so people sign up to this. And I want you to know that if you're looking for medical advice about specific complications, maybe high risk or whatever it is, this is not the place for you. I am not medically qualified. And even if I was, this is not the place for it, because I don't have your whole history. So even if you go to one of these workshops or anything and the person is medically qualified, that is not the place for them to give you explanations. This is not for you if you're expecting a perfect or pain-free birth. I am not going to talk about the benefits of prenatal yoga. There are tremendous benefits for prenatal yoga, especially for birth, but this is not a place to promise you that. And again, it's not about finding out about interventions and birth outcomes. I've got a course on hypnobirthing about that, but this is not the place for that. And it's also not for gentle stretching or prenatal yoga class. This is a workshop. We're going to talk, and I'm going to do a little bit of demo. There's a class after if you would like to join, but here we're not going to do an actual class. So who am I? I haven't introduced myself. You guys have introduced yourself. I haven't introduced myself. So I'm Krishna. Krish, you can call me Krish. I'm Indian, but I'm from Spain, and I live in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. So very international. A couple of things about me. I'm not going to follow this order. I have a PhD in computational chemistry. My brain is I work like a scientist. I think like a scientist. I teach what I understand and what I can prove. I'm also a prenatal and postnatal yoga teacher since 2014. So I've been teaching yoga for now 12 years. 12 years. I'm a mom of four children, 3 pregnancies, because the last pregnancy was twins. Well, actually, 4 pregnancies. My first pregnancy was a miscarriage. Oh, thank you. I just mentioned that here so that you know it's not taboo, and you know if you had that, you're not alone. But I have 4 children. My last one was twins. So I am going to refer to 3 pregnancies from here onwards. And I was labeled high risk, specifically with the twins. I had no health conditions. Babies had no health conditions, but I was labeled high risk. And what that meant was that everything had to change, because in my first pregnancy, it was perfect. It was absolutely like perfect on paper pregnancy. That's what I mean, right? I ticked all the boxes. I was glowing. I practiced yoga until the end. I was doing headstands, everything. Second pregnancy was a completely different experience. I was exhausted. I was absolutely exhausted and shattered, and I felt huge and clumsy. Like I just couldn't do things the way I was doing it before. And I was frustrated because I couldn't do those things I did in my first pregnancy. And I didn't understand what it was that I couldn't do. And then the third pregnancy was the twins, on top of a shock, right? Like emotional shock of having to overcome the idea of going from 2 children to 4. That was high risk, right? So nothing was technically wrong, but that label was stuck in my brain, right? And like similar to this feeling of being fragile. I wasn't ill, nobody was sick, everyone was healthy, But because I was pregnant with twins and high risk, it was like, oh, be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful. What can I do? What can I not do? Is it safe? Is it not safe? All of that. I was also extremely swollen. I had to wear a belly support, a belly band, but I still managed to practice yoga until the end. And I mean until the end, like literally the day before I went into hospital. And what I mean by that is that I had 3 very different pregnancies, but I practiced yoga with all of them. And I had very different bodies in each pregnancy. I myself was a very different pregnant person in each of those pregnancies. The yoga had to adapt to me. I did not adapt to the yoga practice. I had to adapt the yoga practice to me so that I could keep doing yoga until the end. And that's the whole point of today. We have to learn how to adapt all the poses, understand why, so that we can keep doing it in a safe way. And if we're feeling safe, then we can feel confident and in control throughout the pregnancy and take that with us into birth. Okay. So today, we're going to talk about 5 shifts that are going to help you make your practice safe and strong. I'm going to give you clarity on what needs to change and why, so that you have the confidence to modify whatever it is that you need to modify, and hopefully you can understand it. And as a free gift, you're going to get this via email. You're going to get a guide. It's a PDF on a few pointers on how to adapt your yoga practice during pregnancy. And there's links to 3 videos in there as well. A breathing video, a movement video, and a meditation video. So I'm going to send you that via email. And if you have questions at any point, feel free to ask those questions. At the end of this workshop, there is a yoga class. Yeah, a full live prenatal yoga class where we're going to go through everything we talked today. It's going to be a 60-minute full yoga class. I think you have the link in the email, but I can share it again at the end. If you would like to join, you are more than welcome to join. And someone has mentioned about classes, and a few people have told me about classes and joining. I'm Krish. I run the Krish Yoga Studio, and I'm going to talk about the Krish Yoga Studio and offer you a special offer as a thank you for signing up to today. And I am going to talk about that after the workshop. So before we begin, please drop any questions in the chat. If I'm on the mat or distracted, you can unmute yourself or put your hand up and I will come to the screen. This is probably going to take a maximum of 75 minutes. I hope to end it sooner, but maximum 75 minutes. The recording is available until Sunday. I'm going to talk through the 5 shifts and then we're going to do a little sequence on the mat to experience it in our body. Okay, so you will need a chair. Probably, if you don't have a chair, maybe a stool will do. Okay. And I'm going to stop sharing. Any questions before I carry on? No. Okay. So good, thanks. So if you are able to put your camera on now, this would be good because this is going to be, I'm going to talk. I was decided not to do slides through the technical bit, but I do have my notes. So the shift number 1 is core and pelvic floor. Now I've grouped core and pelvic floor together quite ambitiously. Hi Aishan, nice to see your face. Quite ambitiously because I could talk for hours on just the core and pelvic floor. But I put them together because the core and the pelvic floor are often treated separately, but they're not. It's all part of the same thing. It's one system, right? So I'd like you to think of it as a container, like a canister, more like a container, right? The diaphragm is the lid of the canister at the top, and your pelvic floor is at the base. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I refer to the pelvic floor, please put your hands up. Yeah, but very, very briefly, the pelvic floor is a set of ligaments and muscles at the base of our spine that holds all of our internal organs up together, inside our body. Okay, so you have the pelvic floor at the base, a diaphragm at the top, and then the deep abdominal muscles are wrapping around the sides, right? So this system is your whole, let's say, core and pelvic floor. And when the system works well, the pressure is managed evenly throughout, okay? when the system doesn't work so well, like when you hold your breath or when you bear down or when you do crunches, yeah, these abdominals, the pressure has to go somewhere in some direction. In pregnancy, most of the time it goes downwards. In some movements, it can come forwards. Okay, now why is this important? Because as your uterus is growing, let me put this over here so I can see your faces. As your uterus is growing, your abdominal muscles separate along the midline. Yeah, this is called diastasis recti. Yeah, you probably heard of this. It's a completely normal part of pregnancy. It's your body making space for baby. Okay. Now the problem comes when you keep loading these muscles the same way that you used to. So doing the same movements like crunches, sit-ups, double leg lifts, 2 at a time. If you've been doing Pilates or those kind of movements, boat pose, Navasana, yeah, like this. All of that puts pressure. A simple thing that you might think of, maybe you think, I don't do those poses, but I'd like you to think of how you get out of bed or how you get off the sofa or chair now. Are you in bed or on the sofa and do you get up like this? Or do you sit back on the sofa like this? That is using the center of your abdominal. Yeah, and if you have a look, especially as pregnancy progresses, you might notice a ridge or a peak. It's called doming or coning appearing along the midline when you do that abdominal work. If you see that, that's a sign to back off. That's because the pressure is not being distributed in the right direction and it's coming forwards. So it's too much load. What does this mean? This means we need to change the way we think of abdominals. I'm not saying we don't do abdominal work, we don't do core work. It's important to work these core muscles, especially for postpartum, because we want them to be able to recover and come back. We have to change the way we think of doing core. Yeah, so traditional abdominal exercises that crunch the front of the belly, planks, where you feel the belly kind of dropping or tensing at the front of the belly. We want to change. We want to skip those. Yeah, so we'd want to do planks with the knees down, and when you get in bed, out of bed, on the sofa, we roll onto the side. Even when we go down to the floor, when you sit on the floor and you lie back, even if you're lying back on some bolsters or something, we want to roll onto the side and then lie back. Yeah? Are you with me? Yeah, okay. I hope I haven't scared you. How about hugging the baby? I'm coming to that. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't want to scare you, okay? If you've been leaning back and coming forward, it's not about something, terrible is going to happen if you do it a few times. But if you do it consistently, then you're creating weak spots, right? You're sending the pressure to the I'm going to say wrong places. You could be sending the pressure to other places instead. Okay. So what to do instead, right? I talked about this canister. So think about 360 degrees canister, like a cylinder, right? From the diaphragm to the pelvic floor. And think of the 360 breath. Maybe you're familiar with this 360 breath or not, but we want to think about breathing full into this full circumference of the rib cage. Okay? So you could, when you breathe, you could do it now if you're sitting up straight, breathe into the side of the rib cage, breathe into the front, breathe into the back. Yeah? And on the exhalation, you could maybe feel how the pelvic floor comes up. Maybe. Yeah? That lift on the exhalation is the deep, deep core working, the pelvic floor. Yeah, that's your foundation. Okay? So that exhalation, when the pelvic floor comes up, maybe you feel the belly button going towards the back of the spine. That is hugging the baby. Yeah, when we're in pose. We're going to do it later when we come onto the mat. I don't want to get you up and down each time. So I'd rather talk first and then we get on the mat. But that's the feeling that we're going to do today. Okay, it's not sexy, it's not flashy, it's nothing fancy, but it's one of the most effective things that you can do during pregnancy to support your pelvic floor. Because two things. We exhale on the effort, yeah, on principle. Maybe you know this from other types of exercises, but we want to use the out breath on the hardest part of the exercise because that's where the lift will protect the pelvic floor. And the pelvic floor, on top of supporting all of your internal organs already, it's taking the weight of the baby, the weight of the amniotic fluid, the weight of the extra blood that you're producing, the weight of the placenta, and all of that is going on top of the pelvic floor. So we want to be using it smartly. Okay. And just a last note on the pelvic floor. Maybe you felt that on the exhalation, it kind of lifted. You could lift the pelvic floor in and up on the exhalation, relax it on the inhalation. We have to find the balance. We don't just want to squeeze and lift and have a really strong pelvic floor because we think, I have so much extra weight now here, my pelvic floor needs to support. We don't want it to be too tight because you want it to be elastic enough to be able to open for birth. Yeah, and elastic enough so that it can open for birth and then recover and close again. So it's like any muscle, it's like the bicep. Yeah, we want to be able to contract and extend and contract and extend both ways. So it's the same with the pelvic floor. So when we focus on exhaling, we focus on lifting it in and up. And when we inhale, we have to also focus on releasing it and relaxing it down. Okay. And all of this matters because its pelvic floor is linked to pretty much most parts of your body. It's connected to the sitting bones and the sacrum and the hips and the lumbar spine and then the front of the thighs and the buttocks. So this whole part of our body that during pregnancy has so many shifts. Yeah. And a lot of it can start at the pelvic floor if one side is too tight or maybe too loose. Okay. Any questions before I carry on? Cool. Number 2, twisting. Just twisting. Yeah, so I'm going to show you on the chair what I mean by twisting. Twist. That's what I mean by twisting. Yeah, we do this in yoga. You'll do it in many exercises. And maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but I like to talk about it because it's so simple, but it's also so scary because a lot of people avoid twisting during pregnancy because they think it's dangerous. Yeah, especially when you go to a non-prenatal yoga class or prenatal class. And trainers who are not specialized in prenatal yoga might have heard that twisting is dangerous for the baby or for the mom or for whatever, and they just say, avoid twisting, don't twist. And that's out of fear, right? But twisting actually is one of the most beneficial movements you can do during pregnancy. My teachers have been, worried me about twisting. But are your teachers trained in pregnancy, in prenatal? No, they're not. Yeah. Because there's a fear. Yeah. And this is why I talk about it, because they will want to be on the extreme safe side and say, don't twist. Avoid any twist. But twists are amazing, right? Because you could twist in the cervical spine, so the neck. You could twist in the upper thoracic spine, and you can also twist in the lower back. So you have 3 parts of the spine which you can twist. And especially during pregnancy, when your whole body shape, your whole spinal shape is changing, and because baby is growing forwards, our lower back shortens, our upper back rounds, the breasts become bigger, and we kind of end up a bit like, I'm exaggerating, okay? But we kind of end up a bit like this, sorry, yeah? Yeah, it releases so much tension especially if you have a desk job, for example, or you're driving or whatever, or you have a toddler and you are carrying another child at home. So can it be, I mean, I'm 21, I'm walking a long time, I start to feel bad or tired. I don't understand your question, but I will come back to it later. Okay, Aishan? Okay, remind me if I forget. So let me just finish with the twisting. I'm not sure if this is related to the twisting. So twisting helps maintain spinal mobility. It decompresses the vertebrae. Yeah, it supports digestion, which during pregnancy can be quite an issue. Constipation can be an issue. A twisting practice is a very good thing to do early morning because it helps you go to the bathroom and release your bowels. And with the vertebrae, all our spinal fluid, everything that goes from the sacrum down to the SI joint, all the fluids that go along the spine that control all of our nerves that coming down the spine, all of that goes through the spine. And when it gets compressed, the fluidity gets stuck. So it really helps, and especially it helps create space in the rib cage, right? So this part of the body also gets tight because baby is growing, and everything compresses backwards and upwards. So the diaphragm will be pressing up, and you might feel that you're out of breath because you have less space here. So twisting really helps with that mobility and creating space. Now, like I said, we can do the neck. Now, the neck has a pretty good range of motion. And maybe no one has said don't twist, turn your head in the classes. That's completely safe. The middle upper back, thoracic spine. So most of the rotation should come from the upper back. And that's the area that we could benefit the most during pregnancy. And that's not an area to be afraid of, okay? And then the lower back, so twisting in the lower back, doesn't have so much of a range. And this is where the fear comes from, right? Because people think that when you twist from the lower back, you're going to compress the body. And those are the twists that we want to avoid. So it's very, very simple. And I'm going to show you here on the mat. You don't have to move, but you can see me. So, for example, you're in a yoga class and they have one leg up, one knee down, and the whole class twists in this direction. And the teacher says, don't do this twist. So you kind of just sit there or do something else. Well, you could twist in the other direction, and this is perfectly safe. So this is a closed twist. We're twisting towards the body, into the bent leg. And here we are compressing the belly, we are compressing the uterus, we are compressing the diaphragm. We do not want to do this type of twist, but we can perfectly well do this type of twist, and you will feel it in the thoracic spine, and it feels really, really nice. Okay, so it's perfectly safe. Same as sitting with the knees bent and twisting on the side. You're not closing the body. You could, sometimes they do it standing. This is a closed twist. I'll go this way so you can see what I mean. The belly is coming towards the body. This is a closed twist. This is an open twist. Okay, good. It makes sense. So I want you to know it's not scary. We just have to be smart about the way that we move. So if you're in a class and the whole class goes in one direction and the teacher doesn't know, well, you can have a look and say, okay, well, I'm going to go in the other direction. Okay? Because when you compress the abdomen in the twist, it's not that you're going to harm the baby. Okay? I don't want you to think that, say you did it by mistake or someone does it like you've done something really wrong. But if it means you probably will have to hold your breath and you'll have to force the rotation in the lower back. And the lower back here, this SI joint is already pretty mobile during pregnancy just because of the hormones in the body and because the pelvis shape is changing, it's widening and the rotation is changing. So we don't want to be twisting too much in this direction in towards the body to aggravate more of what's happening in the pelvis, okay? So apply it to every single twist, move away. You could do it standing. This is a standing twist. And this is safe. Yeah, and you'll feel it feels really nice in the upper back. Okay, Aishan, if you're there, if your question is about twists, let me know. Can it be revolved? I mean, I'm 21 weeks, but when I'm walking for a long time, I can start to feel tired. Can't be active, but want to be. I think you're talking in general, if I understand you correctly. You can't be active, but you want to be. Yeah, about staying active in pregnancy. This is part of what I was talking about earlier about the frustrations. Yeah? Even when you go for a walk for a long time, because you're used to doing maybe, I don't know, 5 kilometers, for example, or even 2 kilometers, and now suddenly you can't because you get out of breath and you get tired. Well, that is your limit. We do have to adapt. And the whole point of this is adapting the movements for our pregnancy. We cannot adapt our pregnancy to fit the movement. Yeah, we cannot change our pregnancy or change anything about us to be able to do that 5-kilometer walk and feel great about it. What this means is the same way that maybe now in pregnancy we have to change the way we twist. Maybe our 5-kilometer walk has to be a 2-kilometer walk. The rule I usually give is the 80% rule. Usually, in anything that you're doing in pregnancy, don't go to your 100%. Even if you can, go to your 80%. Because we want to be smart. Yeah, we don't want to get overtired after the thing. We want to do this stuff to give us energy and to make us feel good, not to feel tired. So if you know that you're doing something that is going to make you feel tired, then you have to change that thing because you can't change your pregnancy. Yeah? Cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I know it's frustrating, but I want you to know you're not alone in this frustration. Okay, I'll carry on. Back bends. So back bends are also sometimes controversial. I got a comment on Instagram on a post that I put about a back bend saying it's not safe. And I'm here to tell you that some back bends are safe and there are ways that we can do it. They are quite underused in pregnancy because people get nervous about them. And people get nervous about back bends even when they're not pregnant. Okay? So a back bend, what I'm talking about is the back part of the back going backwards, yeah? An extension of the spine. So lifting the arms up and leaning back is a back bend. Now, like everything, we modify and we adapt to make it safe, okay? So what's happening is that as bump grows, as baby grows, it becomes heavier, kind of pulls everything forward and down, right? So like I said before, your shoulders start coming forwards, upper back curves, and you might be feeling tighter here in the front part of the body. So back bends are really nice to counteract that tightness across the chest. Yeah, for everyone. For everyone in society who spends so much time in front of a computer on the phones and we're like this the whole day, we want to be able to do back bends and open up the front of the chest and open up the spine because the back bends counteracts that. And they open up the chest area and they give you space in the lungs at a time where space is tight. Like I said before, the diaphragm is being pushed upwards, right? Baby is coming in from below and pushing diaphragm up. So they give you length in the front part of the body. The twists gives you length in the back part of the body. These back bends give you length in the front part of the body. And then energetically, there's something very special about back bends. If you are familiar with chakras or energy centers, we've got the heart center here. There's something really special about lifting the front of the chest and opening up the front of the body, especially the heart center. okay? It changes how you feel. It energizes you. It gives you an uplift. And this is the center of love and joy and compassion and inner peace and gratefulness. And if we're like this all day, the center gets closed and closed and closed. And we want to be able to get into that center, especially during pregnancy, especially during, this time. No, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into what's happening in the world, but we want to be able to open up what's happening in this part of the body. Okay? But we want to do it smartly. Okay? So there are two things to watch when it comes to back bends. The first is the ribs, the rib cage flaring. Yeah? When the lower ribs start spreading outwards. This is especially important if you go to a regular yoga class and the ribs and people are going into back bends, whatever, and you're joining them, and maybe you're doing it a bit less. But if the ribs are flaring, we want to watch out for that movement. Okay? Because when the ribs splay forwards and open, it means that we're compressing something below, and that's likely to be the lower back. Okay? So we don't want to be compressing anything into the lower back. And the other thing is the passive core. Because we said that the abdominals are moving, we're getting this diastasis moving out to the side, we want to be able to keep the core engaged in a way that is not passive, but not holding it too tight. So this is where hugging the baby in comes in useful. Pulling the belly button in just a touch in towards the spine, not too much. Okay, so it goes from being a passive core to an active core, because if we're not engaging the core, we're dumping again into the lower back, and that means we're going down and not up. Okay, are you with me? Okay, so typical back bends are going to be things like in a yoga class on the floor. So this is no longer an option in pregnancy, especially second and third trimester. This is a back bend, yeah, your cobra. This going onto the floor is not an option. There are ways to do it with a chair, which we would do in a class with practice, yeah. And there are ways to do it standing against the wall, but on the floor is definitely not an option. Some people do it. I do not recommend it. I don't think it's worth risking being on the floor to get into a back bend, even if when you come up, your belly is off the floor. But you could do upward dog on the chair. You could do camel, which we're going to do. Later. We'll do it in the class later. So as long as we're supported, right? And that's why I have asked everyone to bring a chair, because I'm going to show you how you can do it with a chair. So you have the support. And when you have the support, you can go in deeper and you can get stronger. Okay. Any questions before I carry on? Back bends is clear. So that was number 3. I'm going to get a sip of water. Shift number 4. Are squats, are standing poses, strength and standing poses. Yeah. And by strength and standing poses, I mean anything from, I'm talking about legs, squats, yeah, lunges, warriors, balances, yeah, balances, whatever, balances. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. All these strengthening poses. Now, these are amazing, yeah, and these are all still available. But again, like someone said, you start feeling tired because you can't be active. You might feel that here with these standing poses as well. So all of this is still on the table. Your body was built to do these poses, right? And it gives you strength and it gives you power. Having strong legs gives you that feeling of strength. And that's always a nice feeling to have. And it definitely helps for birth and later. But again, as your bump grows, the center of gravity shifts forwards, the pelvis tilts. Yeah, we all have this typical image of a pregnant woman walking like this with a hand behind her back because the belly is going forward and the pelvis is tilting. So the front part of the pelvis is tilting forwards and the tailbone right here at the back lifts. Yeah, I'm exaggerating so that you get the point. So this changes everything. This changes the relationships between your hips, your lower back, and your pelvic floor. Yeah, it changes how your glutes and your hip flexors over here work. It changes how your inner thighs work because now they have more pressure because this is tighter, and the veins and all the lymphatic vessels in the whole pelvis and in the hips are everything is under more pressure, right? Because we've kind of gone from a neutral pelvis to a tilted pelvis. And that kind of goes with the feeling, that heavy feeling, you know, those tired legs and achy feeling, especially at the end of the day, because your legs are pumping blood all the way up through your body and you're producing a third more blood than you were before you were pregnant. That's a lot of blood. And your legs have to pump all of that blood up, right? So when you're doing these standing poses, it can feel just heavy. And we can get cramps and we can get restless legs and those type of things. So what I want you to think about is, how do I support my pelvis in these standing poses? Yeah, it might sound a bit, why am I thinking about my pelvis if I'm standing? But it really all comes from the pelvis. So, for example, if you are used to doing a squat like this, or whatever, you know, squat, you would want to widen. Give yourself a bit more space. Turn the toes out because the pelvis is rotating externally during pregnancy. It's moving wider and out, and we'd want to go down. But on the other hand, if you're used to doing warrior two and you're used to going really wide, now you might want to close it in a little bit. Because if I go too wide, I'm just exaggerating that tilt of the pelvis even more. So if I go smaller, my pelvis can be a little bit more neutral and it can protect the lower back. Okay, so these things are important because these adaptations prevent our body from starting to compensate, right? And when we start compensating, that's when we get into back pain, hip pain, pelvic girdle discomfort, and these things that we assume are just inevitable during pregnancy, but actually some of it can be prevented if we just know how to move correctly, okay? So don't be afraid to get a chair or go to the wall and do your balance on a chair, because by having that support, you're working the strength, you're getting the strength in the leg, but you're not overly compensating with the hips or the core, okay? And then you can actually hold it longer. So some people avoid using chairs and walls because they're scared that, especially if you go to a non-prenatal yoga class, because no one else is using it, or it's like for a beginner, I've been doing yoga for 10 years, why do I need a chair? Actually, it can make you stay in the pose longer, it can make you work your legs better, and it can actually protect the stability in the pelvis. Okay. Are we ready to move? Yes. So if you are joining us in this practice today, get your camera on. I can have a look at you as well. You can see me. And I am going to move this here. And let's move. This is going to be a short sequence just to illustrate the 5 movements. We will need a chair. That's the only thing we're going to need. And if you want something to sit on, you're more than welcome to get something to sit on as well. I have my notes. And it's not a yoga class. I'm not going to start with a traditional yoga class. I'm just going to start straight away. We're going to start on hands and knees. Okay? So we're going to keep the chair near you so you don't have to go too far. But hands and knees, we're going to have the shoulders over the wrists, hips above the knees, hands shoulder width apart, knuckles pressing down, shoulder blades moving away from each other. And here's where we want to hug baby in. Yeah? Hug baby in. Hug baby in means we're not dropping the belly down. We're hugging. So I'm exaggerating. I'm hugging baby in. Yeah, so I'm not rounding yet. I'm just hugging baby in. Okay. And then from here, taking a breath in, exhaling, chin into chest. Look at the baby, look at baby, look at baby. Spread the shoulder blades. Come back to neutral. Take a breath in, exhaling. Look at baby, hug baby. Come back to neutral. And neutral is soft belly without flopping. And one more time, I'm going to have a look at the screen. Yeah, and come back. Okay, Aishan, you can move your hands a bit closer to your knees so you're more in a box position. Because if your arms were a little bit forward, and if your arms are a little bit forward, you're using the core. It's like a plank. Yeah, so we want to be in a box, not a plank. So in a box position, the front of the belly can be soft. But from this box position, we are going to use the core now. And I would like you to press the left hand down. Take a breath in. And on the exhalation, slide the right hand away, and lift the right arm up, forwards. And you'll feel the core switching on. Palm of the hand is facing in. Take a breath in. Exhale, bring it back down. Inhaling here. Exhaling, slide the left hand forward and up. Right shoulder away from the right ear. And bring it down. Yeah, so you can keep doing that. If you want to add the opposite leg, you can. Take a breath in, and on the exhalation, send the left leg out, right hand up. So here we're working the core, inhaling, exhaling, come back down. Inhaling to pause, exhaling, left hand, right leg. So opposite arm, opposite leg. Now, if it's too much, you keep the hand and the foot down. You do not have to lift. You can stay with the fingertips down and the toes down. But this is a perfectly safe prenatal yoga practice that you can do for the core. And we are working the core. This is all core. It's the sides of the core. So we're working the abdominal muscles that have moved. So if at any point you're somewhere and there's a core and you don't know what to do, you can do this until the day you go into labor. And then from here, we're going to come and sit. We're going to sit on our heels. Yeah. We're going to drop the feet over to one side. So this is sage position. So you could sit with the sole of the foot on the inside of the thigh if that feels good for you, or underneath. Yeah, if it feels a bit tight in the knees or the hips, please sit up on something, get a bolster, sit up. And we're going to take the right hand. I'm taking my right hand onto my left knee. So my left foot is inside the right thigh. Right hand onto the left knee. Left hand is behind me. Take a breath in to lengthen. Exhaling, twist, 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 twist. So there's no compression in the belly. So we're twisting. Think of the middle back going up and around. So take a breath in to lengthen. On the exhalation, twist. Inhaling to lengthen. Exhaling to twist. And if the neck wants to follow, you can look over your left shoulder. One breath in. Exhaling. Come back to center. And then we're going to change sides. So there are loads of twists that we can do in pregnancy. This is always a safe one that you can do. So now the sole of the right foot is inside the thigh of the left. Left hand comes onto the right knee. Right hand is behind. Take a breath in to lengthen. Exhaling over towards the right. And again, think of the middle back So think of lifting up on the inhalation, and on the exhalation, we just twist a little deeper. Inhaling, lengthening, exhaling, twisting. Inhaling, lengthening, exhaling, twisting. One breath. Inhaling, lengthening, the crown of the head reaches up, the sitting bones go down, exhale, twist, look over your right shoulder, and then come back to center. Okay. And then after twisting, it's important to lengthen the spine, to realign the spine. So if you are familiar with downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana, you're welcome to go into it. If you're not, I'm not going to teach it in this workshop. We don't have time. So you can do extended puppy pose. Hips above the knees and the hands slide forward, slide forward, slide forward. Again, hugging baby in. We're not dropping baby down and sending the tailbone up. We're hugging baby in. The arms are active in whichever pose you're in, whether it's downward facing dog or puppy pose. Arms are active, fingertips, knuckles pressing into the floor. Engage the muscles around the arm. Spread the shoulder blades. Pull the arms into your shoulder socket. Breathe, 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 lengthening the spine. And then from here, if you're in a downward facing dog, bring the knees down and come to kneeling. Okay. And here's where we're going to get the chair. So, which one should we do first? Yeah, let's do the standing one. So let's get the chair. We're going to do the chair and we're going to come up to a standing pose. I'm going to show you how to do a warrior two with a chair. So any chair works. Ideally, we don't want arms on the chair. Can you see my face? All right. Yeah. So I'm going to take my right leg out and I'm going to scoot all the way back so that my left leg is straight. And I want my right sitting bone on the chair. My left sitting bone, the one of the left leg, is kind of off the chair, pretty much off the chair. My foot is actually hanging. Ideally, I would want to block and put a block underneath my foot, something, yeah? So, shoulders over the hips. You can have a look in the camera if you're leaning forwards or back. Shoulders over the hips. Press the outer edge of that left leg down. Engage the inner thigh of the left leg. So bring your attention to the inner thigh of the left leg. Switch it on, press the outer edge of the left foot down, shoulders over the hips, relax the belly, and then reach the arms out. Yeah, and then look over your right middle fingers and keep pressing that foot down. So, Lorna, you can move your foot forwards a little bit. Yeah, so your ankle should be underneath your front knee, the front foot of the bent knee. Your right foot is too close to the chair. We want the right ankle to be underneath the knee. Yeah, there we go. And we want to engage the leg so that we're really pressing the feet down and powering up through the leg. And when you're doing warrior two on the chair, there's no weight, there's no heaviness in the pelvis anymore, right? The chair is lifting your pelvis up and taking that weight so the legs can do the work now. The arms can do the work. So it's a different kind of tired, but we're working the right muscles here. Take a breath in, exhale, relax the arms. Let's bring the right leg in and change sides. So now the left foot comes over. I'm gonna get some padding so you can see what I mean. By support. So now my foot is on a pad. My left foot is on a pad. My left knee is above the left ankle. My left sitting bone is on the chair. My right sitting bone, my right buttock is off the chair. My right leg is straight. Right toes are turned in. Really press down through the outer edge of the right foot, shoulders over the hips. Relax the belly, lengthen the arms. There we go. Look over the left fingertips and breathe and breathe and power up through the legs. Power up through the legs. Breathe. Breathe. Try and find that softness in the breath, in the front of the body as the legs are working, as the feet are pressing down. Keep rolling the inner thighs of both legs out. And then exhale, release the hands and bring the legs close together. And now we're going to turn to face the chair. We're going to come onto our knees and turn to face the chair. So that is really good to do when you're maybe in your third trimester and everything just feels heavy. Yeah. So now we're going to do camel pose, which is a back bend. And I am lifting my knees off the floor because what I'd like you to do is find a chair where you can bring the hip bones. The hip bones come to the base of the chair. Yeah. So if your belly is coming to the base of the chair, that means we need to lift the floor. So you need to come up on something, or you need to find maybe a coffee table would work better. It depends on what you've got. If you don't have anything, don't worry. Maybe even the birthing ball could work, something else, yeah. So hands on the back, along the buttocks, fingertips pointing down. Yeah, fingertips pointing down, toes relaxed. And we're gonna just press here. We're gonna press the hips, the front of the hips into the chair. So there's no compression on the belly, it's just on the hips. And elbows coming in towards each other. And maybe this is enough for you. And this is where we have to be smart and adapt the pose to where we are. We want to be smart about where we are. Otherwise, take a breath in and lengthen, lengthen, lengthen the crown of the head. Exhale, lean back as you keep pressing the hips forward. Keep pressing the hips forward. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, lean back. Keep pressing the hip forward. One more time. Inhaling to lengthen. Exhaling, lean back. Press the hips into the chair. And then come back to neutral. Spine over the hips. Nice. And then we're going to bring the knees wide, hips onto the heels, and lean forwards onto the chair. Now you can either stay with the knees bent. If it's not comfortable to be with the knees bent, you can sit on the floor, spread the legs either side of the chair, and lean forwards on the chair. So you can stay here while I keep talking. And from here, I'm going to take you to our fifth shift. Our fifth shift, which is the breath. Which is the breath. So breathing in and out. So as you're here breathing, I want to talk about this fifth shift because there's one thing that we do need to change, and that's holding the breath. So especially in many yoga traditions, there's this practice of holding the breath. Yeah, breathe in, hold, exhale, hold. So that is the one thing we do want to avoid. In pregnancy yoga, not even in pregnancy yoga, in any type of exercise that you're doing, we want to be able to breathe fluidly without holding the breath. Okay? So, we want the breath to keep continuously flowing to your baby. So if you're in any class and they ask you to hold your breath, don't. So think of it as a wave continuously flowing without any interruption. So you can stay there and keep breathing. And what we're going to do is take a breath in and take a long exhalation out. Breathing in and out. So if you're able to, keep the breath flowing in through the nose and out through the nose. Yeah, relax the hips, relax the belly. You can bring the knees wider. Aishan, sorry for calling out your names like that. I just want to make sure you guys are comfortable. I think you can bring your knees a little bit wider if that helps. And you can also breathe out through the mouth if the nose is blocked. And I'm not going to count you in here. Everybody has their own count. Everybody has their own pace. But I'd like you to think of the exhalation becoming longer than the inhalation. And that long exhalation is what helps get the oxytocin up and lower the adrenaline. And that's that calm, safe state that's important for birth. When we don't feel safe, we release adrenaline. Adrenaline inhibits oxytocin. So if you can do this breath for about a minute, which is the length of a contraction, every time you practice this breath, you're practicing for birth. And you can access this breath when anything gets intense, even when you're in a yoga pose and you're holding it for a little bit too long. Get into this breath, breathing in softly through the nose, longer exhaling out through the mouth. Okay. And then slowly you can come back out. And I will share my screen again. Sorry, here. Hi, how do I, there we go. So I'm going to recap and wrap up. These were your 5 shifts, okay? There's a lot more, but I talk a lot and I always go over time, so I'm sorry. Pelvic floor and your core work together. Twisting, absolute can do. If it's open, avoid closed twists. Back bends, think of lifting up and staying connected to the front of the body, especially. Strengthening poses, adapt your base, use the legs, and breath work. Keep it flowing. Yeah, avoid holding the breath and practice, practice, practice so that when it comes to labor, it becomes a habit. Any questions at all? Any thoughts that you'd like to share? I am going to send you an email with access to a free guide and 3 workshops. Okay? And I would like you to stay with me a little bit longer, and I'm going to talk about what happens next. And someone asked about classes, and other people have asked me about classes. So I'm going to explain what can happen after, because what we've just done was in under an hour, we moved for a little bit, we did 5 poses, and I want you to just think about how it felt in your body and what happens if you do this regularly. What happens when you practice these techniques every single day for weeks or even months before your birth? Yes, you can use Pilates balls for opening the chest in a supine position. Absolutely. Yeah. But again, we don't want to collapse into it. We want to stay connected at the front. That depends. So in this picture, you could have a Pilates ball where I have a cushion, for example. So I would love to talk to you about the Krish Yoga Studio and invite you all to the Krish Yoga Studio. So what is exactly the Krish Yoga Studio? It is a studio. It's an online studio for women, especially for mothers. It's a place, a real place, not an in-person place, but a place that you can show up to every week with specialist teachers, coaching, and a community. It's not a course, it's not a video library, it's an actual studio. Yeah. And yoga is not a quick fix. Okay. It's never been a quick fix. That's why I don't do a 6-week yoga course. What makes changes to your body and to your breath are repetitions and consistency. I don't believe in quick fixes. I don't think there's a quick fix for anything, but showing up week after week, building something in your body that becomes second nature. So that practice, the things that we've practiced today, if you practice them again and again and again, your body knows how to do it without thinking. And that consistency is what gets you to that destination. This workshop here is just a map, but a map without the destination doesn't really get you to the place that you really want to go. So, sorry, my mouse is being a bit funny. What is inside the Krish Yoga Studio? Quite a few different things. So we have weekly live classes. So there's a minimum of 2 prenatal yoga classes a week, plus there's postnatal yoga, restorative yoga, strong mama yoga. These live classes are live, so there's real-time feedback with the teachers, so the teachers can see you and they can modify depending on how you're feeling on that day and at that moment. If for whatever reason you can't join a live class, you can message us, and then the teacher, whether it's me or a different teacher, will teach that class with you in mind. So when you watch the recording of that class, which is available for 14 days, you don't really miss it because we know you. You said, well, today I had a really hard day because of this. So we will teach that class with you in mind. We also have mothers coaching because from my personal experience, which I'm not going to go into, yes, it is online. This is all online. Mothers coaching is becoming a mother is a shift to our identity on so many different levels. And it all starts at pregnancy. So I always knew that I wanted to support mothers wholly. So there's a professional coach. She's a trained coach, and she leads a coaching circle for mothers every week. And it's not just come along and have a chat. It's actual, there's themed every month, there's tools, it's guided, and it's back and forth where you leave with actual something to take with you and something to work on and something to do. We have monthly restorative and yoga nidra because most women, not most women, I don't know about you, but I know about this me, many of us push ourselves and push ourselves. And if you're here, it's probably because you're active or you are active, and we often forget to slow down. And rest is an important part of building strength. Without rest, we cannot build strength. There's no point. So, and especially in pregnancy, rest is a vital part of pregnancy and birth. So once a month, we have a restorative session and yoga nidra. We also have a private community. It's not a Facebook group. It's all of this is on a special platform, and we have our own private community, which is full of prenatal and postnatal mamas. And you can ask anything, and it's private and completely safe and judgment-free. And then finally, there is a yoga library. There's a whole load of classes that you can watch if you don't want to do the live classes or you're traveling. Different styles, different times, different whatever, meditations, relaxations, movements from 10 minutes to 90 minutes. If you want to do them, you have access to those practices as well. What exactly, at which stage? Like some people say, but how long do I do it for? Well, it's completely up to you, because I knew that anything I taught with pregnancy had to support women after birth, because I know that so much focus goes into pregnancy, and then you have your baby and it's okay, bye-bye. And I would get messages from women who've given birth saying, what do I do now? How do I do this? So then that's how postnatal came. And then these postnatal moms were like, and what do I do now? My toddler, how do I do postnatal? So then we have strong mama yoga. And so many of us are having children later in age, and our postpartum is kind of merging into perimenopause, and we're getting all these mixed signals from doctors, and sometimes it can be both. And I have women who've given birth who are going through both things. So soon we're also going to have Meno Yoga, which is going to be for perimenopause and menopause. But at the moment, we have 2 live classes a week for prenatal yoga and 2 live classes a week for postnatal yoga and strong mama yoga. So anybody who joins is more than welcome to stay and just transfer over to postnatal yoga. And we've got things in there that you can do from day one that are safe to do from day one. So maybe you're thinking, okay, how much? I have a few options for you, and as a thank you for signing up to this workshop, I'm offering a special offer which is valid until Sunday, the 17th of May. So normally it's 97 a month on a monthly basis. Anyone who's joined here can use this code MAMA20 at checkout, and you can get it for 20% off for your first 6 months. So you can join for 6 months, and this could overrun into postpartum, into postnatal yoga. The monthly has a 7-day free trial, and you can cancel at any time. So you can cancel anytime within those 7 days. So you could join the 7-day free trial today and join the class tonight or on Friday or whenever. And then even if you start rolling into month 1 or month 2, you can cancel. There's no minimum amount of time. If you want something a little bit more with commitment and accountability, then I'm offering a special package for the annual, right? So the annual already includes 2 months for free. I'm not going to go through all the math here, but anyone who joins the annual gets a bonus with me, a free one-to-one session. And this one-to-one session can be anything from yoga to preparing for birth to hypnobirthing to anything around that area. And a second bonus is that you get 30% off my hypnobirthing course. So I'm running another course in June. It's a 4-week course, and I can share a link if you're interested. But anyone who joins the annual in this week will also get 30% off my hypnobirthing course. So I'm going to send you information tonight with all the links and all the codes. If you have any questions, you are more than, please write to me, DM me, or email me. Okay. But I would like you to just picture for a moment, because you had a long day, you've gone to work or whatever it is, and you're tired in a way that only pregnancy makes you feel tired, right? And you get your laptop out, you roll out your mat, which is the hardest part. The hardest part is to roll out the mat and show up. But someone is waiting for you. And that is often the biggest thing, because I know so many people who sign up to things, even on my yoga library, and we don't watch it. I'll watch that video later. I'll watch that video later. We just don't. Yeah. But if you know that you've signed up to something and that person's waiting for you, you show up. And then you start feeling better. And then you move for the hour, and then you breathe properly. And it doesn't become a one-off. It becomes regular, right? And you have someone who sees you, who can tell you when you need to move your legs closer together, when you need to move your legs further apart, when you're compressing in your lower back. Yeah. And then by the time you get to 38 weeks and 39 weeks, you're not chasing that feeling of like, oh, that heaviness, I need to feel better. You already know what you have to do. Okay. And I'm not into putting fake pressure. Okay. I don't want to do that. But at the end of the day, pregnancy has a deadline, and there's a limit to how long your pregnancy can last. So if you start your practice at 20 weeks, you can get how many more practices can you get in before birth than if you decide to start once your maternity leave starts at 34, 36 weeks. Okay, I'm not saying it's never too late to start, never. But I really want you to think about as a society, where are we putting our time and energy and money into? We can spend thousands of euros on a pram, but when it comes to taking care of ourselves and spending some time on understanding our body and our breath, we will say, oh no, I'm going to do something else. So I really want you to think about, you're here today, you showed up. What is it that you showed up for? And the next step after showing up is continuing. And well done for showing up. It's a big step. I know you're busy. Thank you, Paulina. Have a nice evening, you too. Here's the link, chrisyoga.com/yoga. The code is going to be sent to your email. Okay. Thank you, Lorna. Just to wrap up, here's the monthly. You get 20% off for the first 6 months with a free trial. And the annual, you get a free one-to-one and bonus for the hypnobirthing course. And here is what a few people have said about my classes. Wonderful online community, postpartum, tailor every session. We give personalized and individual attention, help with back pain, excellent investment in physical and mental well-being, things that are not taken for granted. And that's the mental aspect for me is a huge one. And that's why we have the mother's coaching. Thank you, Krish. It's been a wonderful part of my pregnancy. I will send you all the recording. So thank you. I know I went a little bit over time. I'm about to teach a class in 10 minutes, so I'm going to wrap up. But thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, let me know. You're going to get emails from me and some reminders because I know it's a lot of information. So let it digest. I will sort out the replay and add it tomorrow. You'll get an email tomorrow with the replay, but soon in your inbox, you'll have access to a free guide and the special offer that's only available until next Sunday. Okay, thank you very much. I will stop sharing. I only caught the end because I was leaning, but no worries. You caught the end. Well, welcome for coming. And like I said, you will have the recording in your inbox tomorrow.